Hey guys, so in today's video I have a little watercolor process video for this painting entitled April, and I am really happy with how it turned out, and it was very therapeutic for me in the midst of everything that was going on. And if you'd like to see any of the materials that I used to make this painting, or if you'd like to buy prints of this, you can check out my description and it will have links to everything. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about getting noticed on social media, and specifically Instagram. And for one, I don't think that this video is going to be comprehensive of my experience and all of my advice or tips or insight on how to get noticed on social media. So if you like this video and you enjoy it, you can just ask me for part 2 and I'll gather up some more points and make another video talking about more ways to get noticed on social media. But for this video, I'm going to talk about some of, I guess, the basics of how I think I got quote-unquote discovered on social media, and the stuff that I found that worked for me and some that was something I shouldn't do on social media. And so during this whole video, I'm basically going to be talking only about Instagram because that's where most of my social media presence came from. And also I have YouTube, but I actually developed that through Instagram as well. So just Instagram for this video. So the first thing that I would have to say is to start an account solely for your art. And if you want to post a lot of pictures of yourself or your pets or food, it might be a good idea for you to make a personal account for all of that stuff, because as an artist following hundreds of other artists, it kind of gets really complicated to just see random food pictures in your feed when you're just looking through art and you don't know who it's from. It kind of clutters people's feeds, you know? And so if you want to get noticed on social media, you kind of want to focus just on any art aspects or topics. And so just make an account solely for your art, and I would suggest naming it something that is easy to remember. Don't add a bunch of X's or like numbers in your username. I kept my username to be my name. Well, it's my nickname basically, Saruka Tepes, and my name is Sarah, but I have that in my bio. And Saruka is just my nickname in Romanian. And so actually when I started my Instagram, I didn't think it was going to be an art Instagram, and I just decided to name it something quote-unquote cute. And I never really wanted to change the username, so I know it's kind of complicated, but it's still my name technically. So I would suggest using your name as your username on social media, and adding art or illustration to the end of it can be helpful if your name is kind of common and you'd like to stand out. If you don't really want your name to be your username, then it would be a good idea to brand yourself and have your username kind of be part of that brand. About your profile picture, I would say use a good example of your art, something that you like, something that is kind of a close-up, and you don't want your profile to be too tiny or cluttered, so you want to know what's going on when you see it, and keep in mind that, you know, your profile is a tiny thumbnail-sized image, and so just make sure that it's a good example of your art and something that somebody would want to click on. Try not to make it a selfie of yourself, because as an artist, I don't really click on people's profiles when I see their selfies, because I think it's going to be a personal account. And if you have a selfie of yourself as your profile picture, but your account is art related, it's kind of going to be misleading, you know? Your profile picture is the first image somebody sees from your account, so try to make it something that is indicative of what your account actually looks like. If you want your profile to be a picture of yourself, try to make sure that it's something more professional, maybe taken by a professional photographer, or at least not a selfie specifically, because honestly, just selfies look like they're for personal accounts. For your bio, make sure that it's pretty clean. Don't like add inside jokes or make it super crowded. Make sure that your bio is kind of understandable for somebody who doesn't know you. And use the link to add your website or your shop or any social media that you use outside of Instagram. So I usually have my shop or my YouTube as a link. Next, about posting. So after you've made your account, you have to start posting pictures, of course. So when you take pictures, make sure that they're good quality. You can take pictures in a couple of ways. You can use a scanner, scan in your drawings, and send them by email to your phone, and download them off of your email to your phone, and then post them that way. You can take pictures with a good quality camera like a DSLR and then email them again, or you can take pictures with your phone. I mainly take pictures with my phone. I know my phone doesn't have the greatest photo quality, but when taking pictures of my art, I try to make sure that I have pretty good lighting, so I make sure that the pictures aren't grainy or blurry, and you know, they have a pretty good contrast, and I make sure that they're from directly overhead so that there isn't any perspective warping on the images. And when uploading to Instagram, make sure that you edit your photos. So at least use Instagram to edit your photos. And one thing is, don't go crazy on filters. So don't use anything with too much of a vignette, or try to make it look all artsy with a filter, because that won't look good. It'll look like a 2008 iPhone picture. So what I usually do is I usually use Aiden or Clarendon, those filters, and turn them down to probably like 50% intensity just to give them a slight tint. And then I use all the little sliders for contrast, brightness, and structure, and sharpness, and make sure that my image is pretty sharp. The next thing that I would say is to hashtag your drawings and try to use basically only appropriate hashtags. So usually I put hashtags such as art, drawing, sketch, sketchbook, sketchy, that kind of thing, and sometimes linking the materials that you used for the drawing in the hashtags. So if you used Winsor Newton brush markers, you could write Winsor Newton brush markers, alcohol markers, and that kind of thing. Don't use Instagram love, Insta love, Insta pic, that kind of thing. Since everybody uses those hashtags, it's very likely that your picture is going to be drowned in a bunch of hashtags, and so don't really go for those really super popular hashtags that don't really make any sense, and use more specific hashtags that are relevant to your drawing, and that way people will actually click on your drawings. The next thing I would say is to post regularly, and I would say at least 2 times a week. When you're starting out an art account, it is good to post 4 to 5 times a week, and I strive to post 4 to 5 times a week, but sometimes I understand it's hard. Try to post at least 2 times a week, I would say, is a pretty safe number. Sometimes you can post every day, and if you can actually manage to do that, that's great. But I don't think I would really recommend posting like 3 times a day. If you had a bunch of drawings in a certain day, you don't have to post them all in the same day. Just take pictures of them and save them for a day when you really don't feel like drawing, but you would like to post, and so you can post them then, I've never found that posting too many pictures a day really works for me. Of course, if you want to do that, that's totally fine. Go ahead. But it's just my opinion on that. The next thing that I would say to get artists that you like to follow you or like your pictures is to comment on their posts. They're more likely to click on your account and look through your feed if they see your comment, rather than if they were looking through their notifications at their likes, or just through their likes, because a lot of people give you likes and you can't look through thousands of them, but not so many people comment. So it's much easier to look at an artist if they post a really cute, memorable comment on your picture. And I know a lot of artists have different takes on this, but personally, in my own opinion, I wouldn't recommend telling an artist to check out your account. I know it's kind of a controversial subject, and some people might argue that if you post a really nice comment and then say, by the way, you can check out my account, that's totally fine. And it is totally fine, but for me, honestly, it puts me off a little bit of an account when somebody comments and says check out my account, because to me it just seems that they want more likes or followers, and it doesn't seem that they're actually interested in my art personally. It's like they put in a bunch of work for a certain drawing, and then all you can do is self-promote, and that's just my opinion. If you like to post a cute little comment and then ask somebody to check out your account, that's totally fine. I'm just letting you know what my impression is generally. And of course, on social media, everything is taken the wrong way, and sarcasm is not understood. If you comment something, it can be read 1,000 different ways. So it's not like I'm thinking any of you have bad intentions if you comment anything or you post anything. It's just a lot of times things come off really weirdly on the internet. So it's nice to be aware of how that could come off, and try to not do some things that are not bad at all, but they could come off wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? So of course, if you comment something nice and then self-promote, that's nothing bad in itself, but to me it just gives me a vibe when I see that kind of comment, and so for me personally, I wouldn't really recommend it. The next thing that I would say is try to develop friendships with artists with the similar amount of followers as you have. And of course, don't bug anybody or DM them continuously if they don't reply, and try to have a mutual relationship with them. But the way I try to get artists that I like to notice me is, I'm very sneaky. I'm gonna tell you my secret. And that is, I look at an artist's follower count. And so at their follower count, I kind of can understand how many likes they're getting in during that certain hour. and I wait until they post something, and I wait a couple of hours afterwards. So I know that they're still getting likes on their picture, and they're probably still going to be checking that picture, but it's not going to be like the likes are going to be streaming in unless they're a huge account. And so if they're like up to 100,000 followers, I'm pretty sure that after a couple of hours, their likes are not going to be streaming in, and they're going to be checking on how many comments they're getting on their latest picture. So what I do personally is I like about 5 through 8 of their pictures, and I comment on 1 or 2 of the pictures. And so that way, at one certain point, if they're scrolling through their feed, they can see this chunk of me that's liked their pictures and commented, and they're more likely to click on my account and look at it, rather than if I just liked one picture or commented once. You know, I know that's kind of sneaky and all that. That's the way I noticed actually has worked for me a couple of times by just doing that little spam thingy. And when I say 5 to 8 pictures, I actually mean just 5 to 8. I wouldn't really recommend spamming and liking all of their posts, because that's another thing that can be misconstrued on the internet. It can be a really sweet thing of you to do, and if you comment on all their pictures, that can be really nice. But when you're looking through your feed and you see the same person has liked every single one of your pictures and commented on every single one of them, you kind of feel like they're a stalker or a creep. And of course, you probably aren't, but that's the way it comes off. So I just wouldn't really recommend that. Of course, this is all just the way I perceive things, and you know how everybody on the internet is super sensitive, so everything just comes off weird. And I know that a lot of you don't have any weirdness in mind, but I'm just letting you know how it's perceived, I guess. So when you're developing friendships with artists of kind of the same follower amount you have, comment on their pictures genuinely, and once you notice that they start liking your pictures or commenting on your pictures, for example, they can post something on a story and you can reply to it, and of course if you guys mutually follow each other, they're probably going to reply back to that, and you can start a tiny little conversation that way. You can let them know that you love their art through DMs if you do that kind of thing, and it just kind of creates a little art friendship. And the next thing that you can do is you could feature those artists or art friends that you admire on your page, and they might do the same thing for you, because it's honestly a really sweet thing when somebody features you and tells their followers to check you out. It just makes you feel all loved and wanted. And so if they like your art, they're probably going to feature you as well, or mention you at some point on their account. And I would say that you have more of a chance of being featured on their account if you feature them first. And the next thing I would say is to politely attempt to get art featuring accounts to feature you, and do that by following their rules or guidelines. Don't spam, don't do anything that really isn't according to the rules or guidelines, and just hashtag or tag your pictures to more art accounts that you like. Don't just spam one of them if they obviously don't want to feature you. And then the last thing is to be patient and don't have unrealistic expectations for your account. You know, if you want an art account to feature you and they have 500,000 followers and you have 200 followers, you shouldn't have the expectation that they will feature you unless you are brilliant. And so I've honestly never had expectations of art accounts featuring me. It just never seemed realistic, and I never attempted it. And I never got featured on any art accounts until I got more followers. And so I would just say that unless you're super exceptional or your art fits the theme of a certain art featuring account, don't rely on them to feature your art. I know that's like, oh my gosh, she's so discouraging right now. Just have realistic expectations for your account. There are plenty of smaller art featuring accounts, like 1,000 to 5,000, who probably will feature you. But you know, the bigger ones are probably going to feature bigger artists. And so don't get too discouraged by the fact that you might get rejected in some instances. And then the last thing that I would have to say is the hardest thing is to have patience, because you have to realize the stretch from having no followers to 500 is probably the hardest time to get followers and getting noticed, because after that your growth is going to be exponential. And so getting from 0 to 500 followers is kind of like going from 5,000 to 10,000 followers, quite honestly. And the bigger your account grows, the more followers it's going to get per week, and you know, it just grows exponentially. So when you have a small account, don't be discouraged by having quote-unquote few followers. If there's 100 people who follow you for your art, that's honestly amazing. Think about it. 100 people want to see your art repeatedly. Numbers don't really mean that much if you think about it. It's not like, oh, because you have 100,000, like you're so much better than me. Because no, it's I've been on Instagram for 4 years and I've been posting like a couple of times a week for 4 years, you know, and I've been trying to improve and do all of those things that I mentioned before. And it's not like I'm better than you because I have this many followers, because it's not even, wow, I'm amazing compared to other people, you know. And I don't really think of myself like, oh, I have so many followers or something. I really like the idea of you guys liking my art and following me, and it means a lot to me. So if you have 100 followers or 200 followers or 50 followers, it's still a pretty big deal. The thing I do is imagine having 50 people lined up in front of you or 100 people lined up in front of you, and that's how many people want to see your art. Or think of how many likes you have on a picture. Pretend you have 72 likes on a drawing you have. Imagine 72 people in front of you who said, yeah, that's a cute drawing. Think about it. It's really encouraging. And so don't really focus on the fact that you have quote unquote less than a lot of other bigger artists who are much fancier and more perfect than you, you know? It's still a big thing when you have, let's say, 100 followers. And so don't get discouraged. Just take your time, just keep posting, persevere. And yeah, I hope these tips were not really like super intrusive and offensive, because like, oh my gosh, I told you not to self-promote. You know, it's okay if you self-promote. Not saying that, it's just my opinion, I guess. If you'd like to hear any more of my advice on getting noticed on Instagram or maybe YouTube, that kind of thing, please just comment below and let me know. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, because I would really appreciate that. And if you want to, you can subscribe for new videos every single Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye!